brand new degree. We're 2.5 years and we're accelerated. So all that means is we've just taken a 3-year degree. We've taken 2 courses from that you normally, 4 courses that you normally would have done in the second semester of year 3, and we put 2 in summer 1 and summer 2, or trimester 3 and trimester year 1 and 2. We're within the School of Medicine, so that's actually rare in Australia. There's only 2 other schools in Australia doing paramedicine that sits within a medical school. Why is that important? Well, some of the other schools, such as your allied health, your nursing, and things like that, they have a slightly different approach to patient education and things like that. But we've found within medicine, it's a lot more freedom, a lot more holistic approach towards patient care. So sitting within that kind of environment, even though we've got doctor, we've got paramedic, they do think in very similar processes. Both operate independently, sometimes at fast distances, and it's sort of taught in similar ways in that regard. So fitting in that area does make what we're trying to do a lot easier. Our clinical placements, we're not just restricted to ambulance services, we also try to go into aged care. We try to get back inside hospitals. We've got cap numbers, so we cap at 50. Now when I went through many moons ago as a paramedic, back then when we were going through our paramedic training while on the job, we were put in hospitals. So we went into the maternity ward, we helped deliver babies, we went into day surgery, we put airways down people's throats, cannulated them, wandered around with emergency nurses, did things like that, so we had that hands-on experience, that communication experience. We're implementing all of that through our process. And that sort of goes to why we went towards PebblePad. Already around Australia, many other universities doing paramedicine are already utilising it, so we've got that instant collaboration with industry. Plus, some of the health networks around Australia too are starting to implement that as their professional development process too. And one of the things that we've discussed in the working group too has been maybe changing the ASRP process so it sort of goes through the PebblePad sort of platform to make it a little bit more engaging than what we're currently doing now. So watch that space. Maybe next year or the year after that, your ASRP process might change a little bit. We're also a very, very skill-driven occupation. So we need to know why A equals B and how we put them together. So students need to know how to put needles in people in a safe manner. They need to know how to put an airway in upside down in a turned over car that's about to catch fire. We need to be able to test certain things across certain standards to make sure they can do these steps before they can go into the next skill. The old way of teaching paramedics was competency based on the job training. So are you competent, are you not competent? The beauty of the PebblePad platform, which is one of the other reasons why we selected it, is that we can track those competencies throughout the course. We're a university now, we're doing university education, very different from the TAFE sector, but this enables us to actually maintain those clinical skill competencies throughout the program, and in some of the charts I'll show later on, you'll understand why that's actually important. And as I said, we're one of the last universities to probably be granted rights to actually teach paramedicine. Potentially James Cook. There's query that they may do something that may end up in the postgraduate space, but we're the last university to do undergraduate because there is quite a glut in numbers. With the accreditation with APRA rolling out later this year and early 2018, our students will be one of the first to graduate as a registered paramedic, which certainly breaks down the barriers working around the country, having everyone sort of on the same page. And the other thing too is that we've played, this is one of my sort of favourite things. Some of our research that we're doing with our students at the moment.
Those studying to be a Queensland paramedic here on the coast are using world-first technology to train them for life out in the field. Griffith University today unveiled its new state-of-the-art It looks like the real thing, sounds like the real thing. The only difference, it saves virtual lives.
Is exactly right down the powered stretcher. And
this technology is the first of its kind anywhere. It is only offered if you're studying to be a paramedic at Griffith University. It's an old ambulance vehicle that's been given a new fit out with features of the real thing, like a stretcher and an ill patient.
I wanted to give our students more of a work readiness kind of framework than we
benefits to show them how different it is from doing things in a class to doing it.
Not yet.
For students, it's a whole new learning experience.
We learn how to set the babies, we learn how to split various bone fractures.
The QAS donated the decommissioned truck and other medical equipment to help the university bring the technology to life.
The use of simulations making a big difference to giving them as real place as possible for real life experiences.
Patients survive.
It's just the start, with the university already planning to add further features.
And we plan to actually turn the walls on in the room as well, so when you open your doors to come out and deliver the patients to hospitals, the scene will actually be set for them.
Mia Glover, 9 Gold Coast News.
Alright, so what you can't picture on that is actually, and we've already had to take people out of it because they've become sick, physically sick. The windows are actually wide TV screens that wrap completely around, so as the car goes past you see it go past the side window, and you have full immersive environment. The next phase, when I get some more money, is to actually put the hydraulics on it and actually simulate some of that movement. But at the moment, students go to get up when they've been in there for a while and they actually brace themselves to move around and stuff. And it's kind of, the only thing it doesn't have is the air conditioning vent as you walk in. So paramedics like myself and other sessionals, when they come in to get into the car, we all still get in and we duck because otherwise you'll concuss your head. So we're wondering if we get some reports when students go out on placement that actually take their heads out on the air conditioning vent in the MERC. So that just gives you a bit of an idea of what we're doing with our program. So you can sort of see why we're sort of going down that e-portfolio path. Now in that video I also put a glimpse of our electronic patient care report form. And that's something else that goes back to that competency type standards I was talking about, where students need to learn how to actually do that. And that's evidence that they upload up into particular workbooks or other aspects like that within PebblePad that we're using as part of this program. And the beauty of that is that from year one we've introduced that, and employers will be able to see that novice practitioner all the way through to graduate. They can see how their patient care reporting improves and things like that all the way through. So why are we using this in our program? So as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about skills. Skills are very important for our particular job. It's very hands-on. If we can't do our skills, our patients die. It's as simple as that. So we start off simple, and the beauty of some of the aspects that we've got here to record these skills is it not only does this platform enable us to record the skills, it enables us to actually show a chronological order of when they were achieved, how long it's taken to achieve it, and how the students have gone throughout it based on sessionals, and also practical feedback that they will get throughout their program as well. And throughout this, you can sort of see how it's developing, and then we've got the employability graduate paramedic direction. So what we're saying here now is that when students actually graduate from this program, employers are now looking for you to come with, one, your university transcript, and two, your electronic e-portfolio. So I won't brand, because there's a few of them out there, but we're using PebblePad. And the reason we've done that is because the evidence that we have captured along this student's journey of this degree will actually be chronologically set, so that when they're doing that graduate paramedic interview, the organisation, be it Queensland, be it Victoria, New South Wales, be it London, they can actually go through and see what the students have done over that 2.5-year accelerated process. And it's actually documented, and they can actually drill down into what the students have actually done. And it also shows if there was a student that might have tripped up in certain areas and then they've shown improvement. It actually shows how that's occurred as well. And key things, and I'm going to show you a little bit later on some of our placement, which is probably one of our really big courses we're utilising this for, particularly this summer, is it'll actually drill down into what the students did on placement, what the mentors thought, the clinical mentors thought about them on placement, from both a reflective clinical point of view and also from a technical point of view as well. What was their attitude like? Other things like that. And I've said to our students from day one, basically consider the day one of university in this professional degree, you're on a job interview from now until you finish your graduate year. So that's 3.5 years' time. That's when your job interview is set, because you'll either have a full-time job or you won't. And placement, and we bring sessionals in as well, and those sessionals are used in interviews, but they could be on the interview panel. So the students have to realise, because there's up to 3,000 students applying for 800 jobs a year, and more students are going overseas to actually do these work over in London. Like, London's so short of paramedics, it's not funny. 10 years ago, I was running the Queensland Ambulance Service overseas interstate paramedic program, and we were stealing them, and that's the best word for it, we were stealing them as they come and work here. And now they're doing it to us, but not qualified, because no qualified paramedic my age is silly enough to go work in London. They're taking all the graduates that are going over there. They're young, they're keen, they can do their shift, they can put up with the ridiculous hours and fast-paced work, and they can go tour Europe. I mean, what type of opportunities like that didn't exist when I graduated 20 years ago? So it gives us that ability to do it. And looking at all the programs when we first started looking at implementing this is where we came across our process that would make it fit. So our accrediting organisation, the Council of Ambulance Authorities, basically, as I mentioned earlier, we've got a whole matrix here. It goes through about 50 pages, and I'm not going to bore you with it. But basically what you can see here is admission, knowing, timeline, graduation, doing. And that's what Pebble Pad enables us to actually do, and that's how we're implementing it across our program. So I'm not sure exactly how, yours is more placement related, is it, Lana? With what you guys are doing in NNT to start with?
No, it's more
Or bit of both?
bit of both,
Yeah.
yeah, but we haven't done our placement yet.
Yeah. So this is where we're both trying to, we're about to use our placement, but we haven't implemented too much in coursework. So in these early stages, we're able to sort of talk back with each other and work out what's worked well in some areas and work off each other so that we don't end up all falling in the same holes. But the beauty of our particular industry is that a lot of people are already using it. So we're not alone on an island wondering what we're doing. We can actually ring, I can ring La Trobe University, I can ring Sunshine Coast University, for example, and I can talk about their experiences implementing certain aspects and make sure we don't fall down the same traps for that. And one of the things is to do with connectivity if you're out of range, and I'll show you that a little bit later, which is one of the big things with our program. So basically that relates to the standards. Now, you don't need to read them. I'm going to flick past it in half a second, purely because that's just to let you know that we have our standards from our accreditation agency, and implementing this program enables us to actually show what we do in year one, skill sets, competencies, how we've achieved the placement, moving into year two, further developing the more advanced clinical skill sets and competencies. Year three, getting them ready for graduation and getting them out there in the workplace. Getting them ready for their interview, then finally their internships, and from that, then after that, is completely up to the students. However, when they're on their internship, they can add further real clinical cases to their own, de-identified of course, but they can add their own clinical cases from their officer or paramedic dashboard that then when it comes to actually applying for other jobs in a full-time capacity post their 12-month internship, they've got what they've done at university plus what they've done in that 12 months all coming together to form a very powerful package. And by sort of developing that sort of process all the way through with a collection of reflections, clinical skill-based reviews, course-based related material, all the way through, can then sort of correlate with the interview and their internship year. And that's how we've best felt this actually works. So for us, I've mentioned it already, tracking the journey. So chronological tracking of what the students are doing. That's what the employers want to actually see. They want to see what the students have done. Your GPAs are great, but just because you've got a GPA of 6 or 7, it doesn't mean that you're going to be a very practically minded and gifted individual. Sure, there are people that are both academically brilliant and practically minded, everyone hates them. But then you get the other people that are sort of, they can normally, like, photographic memory as well, so we hate people more. But normally you'll get that combination of both, where you'll have someone that's got good academic potential and have done really well in some courses, other courses have done okay but not as high, but then you look at the practical skill sets and you look at the revision of what people have actually said in the feedback and you've looked at their reflective journals and you go, oh, actually, that person really suits the role that we're after. And the way that we're going down and how selective people can actually be. What is that edge? What is that extra bit of employability we can give our students so that come a Sunshine Coast University, QUT, Griffith student, Southern Queensland and CQU and ACU all sit for the same single job. What can our student give that's different from the rest of them? And that's what we're trying to achieve with this. Paperless documentation, I know that's sort of the green tick, so to speak, but at the end of the day, we do appreciate that being IT, things can always go wrong. So we do have some paper backups associated that we send with the students in case everything goes pear-shaped. However, what I'll show you in a minute with one of the really cool features of PebblePad is a way of actually taking this to the paperless direction. Ultimately, everything we want for the students, we'd love to be able to roll them out with an iPad or Google device, and out they go, and everything's done on that, regardless of connectivity or not. On-the-fly reflections by Pebble Pocket. We could be doing an outside clinical skill review or something, or some kind of big scenario, and then we could finish that, get the students to actually log into this thing called Pebble Pocket that I'll show you in a minute, and they can actually do an on-the-fly reflection on a base template that's actually sitting there, which then uploads back up into their portfolio, which they can then use as evidence. The on-the-fly ability of utilising Pebble Pocket is massive when it comes to the type of work we're doing within our program. And that part of the e-portfolio is what really sold it for our program, because of the sheer complexity and nature of what we're actually trying to do and when we do it. Most of my programs cannot be taught in a classroom. It just doesn't work, right? It's not the same thing. I need to throw someone out inside a car that's upside down. I need to put them in it and have the viruses cut things around them and have the glass explode all over them so they can see what it's like to actually try and do their skill set under pressure. I can't do that in the classroom because the people next door complain. So on-the-fly video as well, that comes back to that type of stuff. And again, Pebble Pocket enables us to do that too. Structured workbooks. Yes, it comes with some brilliant templates and things you can implement for your program, but not all that doesn't suit everyone. It's not a one-size-fits-all, it's a one-size-fits-most. So it gives you the power to actually then go and create. And the particular workbooks we actually needed and reflective type journals we needed for our particular environment, we have to create for ourselves. Now we are working with Heidi and with Alison at the moment to come up with some Pebble Pocket based specific Griffith reflections that can be done as well. So that type of stuff can be done, but that's not free, so maybe grants or other things like that could be sought so that you might be able to implement that for your own program as well. Interactive case-based learning opportunities. Now, yeah, it's great to sit in a classroom and sort of do a bit of PBL or case-based learning, but for us it really gives it a whole new engagement in the way that we actually approach this. So I can put up a workbook, I can embed a video of a car accident or a scene or a violent situation or something of that nature, and I can get the students to refer to that plus other writing and really embed at-home case-based learning and really flip the whole classroom model to actually implement this across the board. So that's one of the other avenues that we took. And more importantly, it's just a more engaged student experience. And that's what we're trying to do. Like we want to go away from that talking head at the front of the classroom. It's boring after a while. Most people lose interest after about 15 minutes. So it gives us that more engaged experience. And as I mentioned earlier, the industry standard, like what we've come across so far, it does make collaboration, and collaborating with this is what makes it work really, really well. So that is one key thing that we took away with that as well. So, tools we use. So to make the session a little bit more interactive. So Pebble Pocket can operate on a mobile phone. So that's a screenshot that's taken off my mobile phone, it's an Apple device. Operates on Android as well. But as you can see, like you have the ability to create a quick post, reflection, record an experience, add a photo, add a video. Okay, so on the fly kind of record keeping, out on a field trip somewhere and things like that, you can get your students to actually do it while you're there. For our particular purpose, our students operate sometimes in rural and remote locations and other areas that are a little bit hard to get across. So we've got a couple of processes, particularly with our placement, where we need students to reflect on a clinical case that they've been on. So that's done XYZ. And we get their mentor to look at that and explain whether or not their clinical reasoning is on the right path, etc., etc. Now, we don't want to overburden. That's one thing with technology you can do, particularly in a placement section, is you can overburden people with new technology and lots of things to do. So all we've done with our particular placement process is we would like clinical case reflections reviewed with the clinical mentor, which is what you do with a new student anyhow. And we'd also like the mentor to rate the clinical experience or how they feel that student's going. So we created this very simple, nice tick and flick form, which eventually we will make electronic. And what we do is we get the mentor to go tick, 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 like I've already done there. The smiley face represents the student's photo. So, and then the student just takes it like that. They get their telephone with their pedal pock on it. And I get away all these annoying emails that have just popped up. And we go to add a photo, like so. So I'm going to take a photo. Yes, I want to allow the camera. I just go over the form like so. Use the photo. And I'll just call this placement form 1 test. And then all we do now is there's a little send button, and we hit send. It'll ask me to confirm. Now the beauty of that is that this is stored on this device. And this is in range at the moment, so it's going to suck it up into my Pebble Packet account straight away. But the beauty of that is that it gives me a little message to say it's been sent. If you're out of range, like the students could be out of range, they do that, and next time the phone's in range, it's going to suck it up into their Pebble Packet account. Now we've actually got an assessment piece that's designed to actually deal with this. So we've got a particular workbook. So here's our clinical placement review form workbook. So this is inside the student's course-related material. And you'll see here that we now need to go to our asset store and upload. So there's my clinical placement form. Okay? So that's it now uploaded into Pebble Pocket, from Pebble Pocket. And now I save success. And now, if we go across into Atlas, which I'll talk about in a minute, I'll probably need to refresh that now, it'll actually show that one of these forms has actually been sucked up and that part of the assignment is actually submitted. So it's that simple, that the actual clinical mentor itself does their tick and flick, student takes photo, adds it to that particular workbook, job done. Okay? Where previously you'd have to come back with a whole collection of paper-based information and things like that. It now enables us to actually do that. Now, it has. Nope. Okay, so that's one of the tools that we use. But yeah, I guess there's a whole gamut of things that we're going to use throughout our scenarios and things like that. But that's just an example of how to quickly utilise the mobile device. It could be the iPad as well. The students all have a mobile device of some kind. And go from yes.
Quick question: when it's uploaded and you're looking at it through Atlas, can you actually comment on it? Can you write on it?
Yes, because it's actually it was actually uploaded as an assessment piece. So that's actually an assessment. Yeah. So they have 3 of these. So they've got to upload 3 of them. Yeah. So I actually can comment on that assessment piece. And what we're looking at that is whether they're satisfactory or unsatisfactory. So yes, you can comment, because it's been incorporated into a particular, so that's actually a workbook. What you can see there is actually a workbook. So yes, you can comment on that workbook, mark it, etc. And for us, it's a satisfactory or unsatisfactory process. So it's not like a normal 4 to 7 type direction. It's a sat or unsat. So, okay, so the other thing that we do too is we've had to go very customised to our workbooks, particularly with our clinical placements, because that's what we need specifically for us. And this enables us to do it. So you've got your classic, what you see is what you get kind of editor style. So if you can edit in Word, you can edit in Pebble Packet. Okay, it's not hard. We can set tasks, assignments, endless possibilities. Realistically, whatever your imagination limits are, that's pretty much what your workbook can look like, okay? So if you're off the tree with your imagination and ways you want to approach things, you can go off the tree with your workbooks. But be warned, you need to do it in such a way that it's an achievable task for both you to complete and for the students to understand, okay? It's all very great if you have this real whiz-bang and great-looking workbook, but if its functionality is hopeless, you'll lose your student buy-in and they won't be interested, okay? So yes, you can customise to the nth degree, but you've got to look at what you're trying to do. And the other thing it has in the background too is tags. So when you can run reports, if you've got your tags set up correctly with your workbooks, you can run all types of different things, like how many completed workbook on X placement with said tag, and you can run these cool little graphs and things like that. So come course reviews and how you're going with other things like that, you can pull data straight away and say, well, actually, my students on XYZ have done this, and if they're out on placement, you can go up straight away and see how many students are on track to completing, who's a bit behind, other things like that. So the workbooks are more than just workbooks. They can really engage where you're at. So just to give you an example of that workbook, right. Here's my sure the sheep. Long story, don't ask. Ask Ian Edwards, he's here. So, naturally is a workbook we're playing with. So basically, this is the internal workings of a workbook, okay? So we've created different pages and things like that. Now within this workbook, it's there to describe to the students how to do their case reflection, that type of information. And then we've got an area that's case reflective and mentor sign-off. So if we look at this from a student perspective, that's basically a blurb of information, and you can track whether the students have read that, because we force them to click that before other things kick into gear. And then within the clinical case reflection, we've then got other areas within this workbook where we get the students to describe what they're dispatched to. The clinical case summary, where they put various clinical details. And then from there, they describe what was wrong with the patient. And in case anyone's wondering, yes, these text boxes do expand as you type into them. And then from there, you've got the section 4, which is a bit of a reflection on the actual case reflection, so where they think they went well, what they could have done better. And then an area where the mentor, clinical mentor, can actually provide some feedback and sign off. Now, the way that this is set up, that if they can actually sign on the screen or with a stylus or however, and it also forces them to print their name. But the beauty of this, if the student isn't happy with what the mentor actually says and then deletes that information, it actually tracks that, and we can, because it locks it all down, so we can see if students have been naughty, and we can see when they roll back and things like that. So that was another feature that we really wanted to ensure with what we're doing, because we're trying to develop health professionals, not health criminals. So, as I mentioned earlier, I won't go over it again, but yeah, these workbooks are also going to implement across, particularly with semester 1 of year 2 next year. We're developing an ECG workbook that creates basic novice type activities all the way through to very advanced 12-lead ECGs and various clinical conditions that the students have got to work through. So we're going to use a workbook set up for that. We're also going to use workbooks themed throughout the course. It actually pulls back on foundational knowledge that they learned in year 1 to see if they're still thinking in that process. Because I've already gone through 6 to 8 drugs out of the 38 I think they'll cover. And you know what, I'm not going to teach them again if they've already done that. It's my expectation that they know that already. So I'll pull in a case-based scenario. And if they have to use their iPhone to check the drug, I don't care, because that's what we do in the real world, okay? We want people checks and balances. I'm also a pilot. I don't fly anywhere without my checklist, okay? Because chances are, unless the checklist is on fire, which hopefully there's no fire in the plane, there's no other reason why I shouldn't be following it, okay? So, the other aspect you can do here, for those that haven't really had a chance to really delve in to see what we're doing, and I'll talk about the pages in a minute, but activity logs, I mean, they're huge for what we're doing, so we're going to sort of use those particular skill bases and stuff like that. You're going to have templates for structured reflections, abilities, other things like that. Depending on what you require for your course, depends on how you actually use these. Some of these might be useful for some people, some of them might not. For us, we can use some, we can't use others, so we create our own. But that's the beauty of the platform. You can get in, get creative, and create your own very simply and very quick. Atlas, so this is basically where all the assignments come in. You can see who's done what, how it's done. From our testing solution that we've done at the moment, because there are only students in Atlas, you can see here that the clinical case reflections workbooks We've got some here that are already in the process of being used. And where are we? Submissions, management, that's the wrong area. And again, this area within Atlas, we've just pulled straight out of our course profile, so you're not reinventing the wheel. So when students do go in and they submit their things to Atlas and stuff like that, they're seeing what they're seeing in the course profile. So you're not spreading mixed messages or anything like that. You're keeping everything succinct. Again, we just copied and pasted, and it was quite fine. The other key area that's we've utilised, particularly because we've got students that are placed overseas and interstate and around Queensland, is this little thing here called site pages. Now for us, why have we done that? We've done that because our students have defined skill sets that as a university we've ticked off on clinical assessments for. We're happy for you to put that drug in that patient. We're happy for you to perform that skill on that patient. Okay? So basically what we've done is you create like a little web page, so to speak, which is a blurb that contains terminology, and the thing that's really important about this, and they can pick this up on any of their tablets, is this little table here that calculates everything that's green the students can do on their impending victims, patients, and anything that's red, not yet, okay? And that's fluid. So that'll always be up to date 100% of the time, because sometimes pages and paper can go out of date the moment you print them. So that's one thing that we implemented for our placement program as well.
How is it updated? So just
manually at the moment, yeah. And other than that, like I said, it's been designed so that we can go from the start to the end and bring that chronological journey for the students. However, even in the past 12 months, we've still got a few lessons learned. Custom template collaboration, we could do earlier, but couldn't do in the version that's currently there, but the new version's coming out very shortly this month, which kicks that back into gear. So the beauty of that is that you don't need a generic course Pebble Pad account. Now, like I've been working a lot with Robert Loudon, now Robert and I can share the development and things like that once that kicks back into gear. At the moment, we've, because we didn't have that joint account, because I've sort of been doing some on my own before we sort of had the whole university buy-in, now they just email things to me, I do it manually, but that sharing ability is massive. No one man or woman is an island. Collaborating with this work is the best way to get it done and the quickest way to get it done, because there's always something someone else will pick up that you might have missed. Student buy-in. I'm an academic as well as an educational designer, other things like that, so I sort of play with a couple of hats, but it's how you sell it, why they need it, and things like that. Now, for our students, it's a little bit easier because their future employers want it, so they sort of don't get a choice. So that makes selling it to them a little bit easier, but for others, how you sell that is up to you. Those that are program directors, selling it to your academics and your course conveners and things like that, it's like, oh great, more work. Me, I like creating in these kind of spaces, so for me it wasn't that much of an issue. If anything, it was more of a threat from a SWOT assessment, because I'd rather spend more time playing with that than doing other things. So I had to balance my time. So similar process, support. I mean, health group's got some good support with it because we led some of the piloting, but we're in the process of the university setting that up, so let them know they're not alone. And then learn from other users' experiences, okay? And remember, it is an IT platform, so things. And that's basically it if you've got any questions.